All right. Well, this is the part where I just hang out. Well, I've successfully got the screen running, so that's good. There's a couple of things that are confusing. I'm not sure yet how to link the Zoom meeting to the scheduled Zoom, the scheduled YouTube, but we'll figure that out. Just a reminder, the link to the Zoom is down in the description if you wanted to go face to face. Hey, looks like Nick is ready to come online. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Robert.
Nice to see you.
You too. How's it going?
Good. Wow, that's quite a shelf unit back there.
Yes. This is the Croffice, the craft room slash office.
Office. Yeah. Yeah. Looks like you got a printer and
Yeah, I got two 3D printers behind me and art supplies of all kinds.
awesome. Well, I got tea brewing, so
I've got mystery soup.
yeah, our soup starts out with intention and ends up being mystery soup. Like the day 3, just keep adding stuff to it. So what's up? What are you up to? What are you building?
Uh, Not a ton right now. Things are quiet. Trying not to go into the build space as our public maker space, so
Yeah,
trying not to spend too much time there. But
yeah.
always scheming.
You and Gordon Kirkwood both.
I think Gordon far more than I am. I I have lots of ideas. Gordon acts on lots of ideas.
He starts to act on lots of ideas. Yes.
Yes. I haven't quite reached that stage yet.
Yeah.
I just collect hopes and dreams.
Well, you get to a point after, project number whatever, when it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't fit another thing.
Yeah, especially when you live in a little city apartment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the folding bikes and the donkey bikes and the tiny bikes make a lot of sense when that's the amount of room you've got.
Well, I did a project 2 summers ago where my my thought from the outset was I have too many ideas. I want all these different weird bikes. And so I ride with a group that does like a freak bike ride once a week. And so I said, all right, I'm going to build a bike based on one of my zany ideas.
Yeah.
And I can't ride that bike again until I have disassembled it and rebuilt it into another zany idea.
Oh, wow.
And so
Yeah.
I rebuilt parts of the same bike into a new bike once a month all summer. And then got to ride 8 different bikes over the course of the years. Now the problem is there were like 4 or 5 of them that were like, that was great. I really want that bike now.
Yeah. Yeah. Some bikes, yeah, you get on them and you go, oh, this one's working really well.
Right. Instead of being like, oh, that was a bad idea. I don't need that. I'm like, more of them were good ideas than bad ideas.
Yeah. Even commercial bikes, diamond frames. I think I've had 2 that were just solid and just brilliantly built. Even the one I've got right now at high speed, the front wheel starts to wobble unless I really lean on top of it. So, come on, you guys, get the you get. We've been building these things for years.
Yeah, I'm not just not picky enough, or I'm used to really riding really janky stuff.
I think the hardest bike, other than the reverse steer bike that I've ever tried to ride, is one where all the weight was just lined up with the rear axle. And
So you like flip over real easy?
It's not so much that you flip over real easy, it's that the control of it is really bizarre and hard. It doesn't want to lean the way that you would imagine it when you turn, that you would have any control over it. It was
I've ridden a couple of like really, really long fork choppers that there's basically no weight over the front wheel.
Yeah.
So like you get going and you turn the handlebars and nothing happens.
Yeah.
The front wheel just starts sliding.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I really the first bike I built in that project was I built a swing bike, except instead of the normal swing bike where the 2 pivots are more or less parallel,
Yeah.
I put the second pivot perpendicular.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the whole back of the bike, like you don't steer by turning the handlebars anymore. You steer by leaning the back wheel underneath you.
Yeah. I think I saw a video of you riding that, didn't I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've certainly put some pictures up of it, if not a video, but
yeah,
riding it at low speed is real hard, but once you get up to speed, you feel like you're skiing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't an original idea. There was some like Kickstarter project or something that somebody was trying to produce a bike that had that feature.
I think that feature would be useful for a self-balancing bike, because part of the trick, I mean, you can use like a giant flywheel, reaction control wheel, or like I've ridden bikes that I've crashed a lot, and so the wheels end up tracking in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And they're impossible to ride without, you have to hold on to the steering. As soon as you let go, it
Right.
starts going into the turn. And I realized there's probably a way to use that. Like if you can have your accelerometer like turning that rear wheel out as it's needed, you might, because basically a bicycle, it's like if you're standing on your tiptoes and you're balancing back and forth this way. So, you can do this,
Right.
or you can move one of your toes a little bit. The tricky thing is really that all the mass is up on top, so you can't really like do a counterweight. You have to think of some other way to move the stuff. And
Right. Yeah, you can't get the center of mass underneath the center of balance very easily.
no, so I was thinking something where the frame torques back and forth like that might be a way to do that. I don't have enough chops for building robotics to see that project through.
Well, send it to Gordon.
Hey, he's got his prepreg now,
Yeah.
so we won't hear from him for a while.
I doubt it. Yeah, I mean, at least based on riding that bike, you need a heck of a mechanism to control that, because most people that tried to ride it, like, because if you get on it like a normal bike, it just falls out from underneath you, because the frame is no longer the thing holding the bike up. That's your abs.
Wow. Yeah. Good workout.
Yeah. So I missed the what's new in Kinetic Universe land. What's the big hubbub over there?
The big hubbub. I don't know if there's I think hubbub isn't quite it's more of a restructure.
Yeah.
To actually become have a broader mission and vision. The organization, ever since Hobart asked at least 4 people to save his race, has always been about saving the race. And like after 20 years, like, you guys, you saved the race. Let's do something else.
Yeah.
What else can we do here? And listening to the racers, you begin to hear things like, there's no new racers. And what can we do to bring in more racers? And then you think, well, what are the strategies to bring in more racers? And you start, and as an engineer, my first place that I go to is, it's really challenging to build a vehicle to participate in a race, which is true. It's also true that it's hard to know where you even start. Like, who do you call first to say, hey, I would like to participate in your race? You can call Jeno. She's a good one. But then she's just one person.
Yeah.
And she's focused on getting volunteers and stuff. She's not focused on, well, you could be a rutabaga queen, you could be a judge, you could be a racer. Here's some teams that are looking for people to be pit crew and peons. So there's we're looking for mentors to lead middle schools in the basic skills of how do you put something together. There's steps that could be instituted that have never existed before.
Definitely.
So that's I think that's what we're really aiming at, is how do we increase the reach of the organization and do a better job of making kinetics a thing, because we all love it and we all know it's a thing, but like, it's possible to live in Eureka for 25 years and not really know that it's going on,
Yeah.
which boggles my mind. It's like, well, if you're not in town on that one weekend, you don't know.
Right. Or even if you are in town, you're like, why are all these roads closed? There's all these people in the way, and just don't bother to investigate.
I have to get to Costco and I can't. Yeah.
One of the things that I was super impressed with when I started getting involved at our local race, so we've only been racing in Lowell for, last year would have been the 5th year.
Yeah.
But the first couple of years, we had a couple teams come up from the Baltimore race, and multiple times I think it's a Voc Tech school, but I'm not sure. That is part of their Voc Tech program. The high schoolers build machines for the Baltimore race, and they brought some of them up to our race. And I know there's one or two schools that did something similar for the race up there.
Colfax did for a while. Hi, Sandy.
Hey, Bob.
Goddess has joined us. Hello.
Cool. Yeah, keep going on your Lowell story.
But yeah, I mean, I think just we've had a few programs, like we've had a team from or a couple of teams from the local Boys and Girls Club, and like a STEM maker camp for middle school kids has had a team the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That has joined our race. But from our race is nothing compared to the race in California. And
Don't say that.
okay, it's not nothing, but our race is so.
You guys started a race and it already has what, like 20 participants, and it's only been going for like you say 5 years. That's huge. Right.
In terms of the engineering challenge of building a machine, like the obstacles are significantly easier, to the point that myself as a builder, I take, now that I've done both races, even more so, I take the Lowell race as an opportunity to like build zanier, wackier things that are too inefficient to do the California race.
Yeah.
Because our first year, we built a tank out of 2 snowmobiles. The thing's top speed was 2 miles an hour. And that was if we were pedaling as hard as we possibly could.
Yeah.
Probably weighed 600 pounds. And it was a fixed gear drivetrain. Like, there were so many bad ideas.
Yeah.
And it still got stuck in the mud despite having snowmobile tracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Sandy, one of the things that Nick does well is he documents his work, and the video of him and his friend working on this snowmobile vehicle like the morning of the race is on the sidewalk is very precious.
So where would I find that video?
I don't even know. Probably on my Facebook, maybe, but I'm not sure. There's some good video. Let me find there's a good documentary about the first Lowell race.
I think that's probably where I saw that.
Yeah, it must be that. Let me find that real quick. I was gonna say I have some good video that I don't think is posted anywhere, but through our construction process, the first time we got something drivable, we're like, okay, we think we can pedal this and it'll roll out of the garage. And so we put it down on the ground, started pedaling. I think it made it about a foot before something broke. Pushed it back into the garage, figure out what broke, weld it back up, try again. Oh, it made it a foot out of the garage door before something broke. Push it back in, weld it back up. Took 5 or 6 attempts to make it from the garage to the end of the driveway.
That's great.
But we now have a customary, anytime we have to test a vehicle, there's a donut shop about half a mile down the road. And so it's customary to ride the vehicle to the donut shop and back.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you had a Boys and Girls Club and it was an after school program.
It's a STEAM summer camp because our race is in September.
Okay.
So it's like I'll see if I can find it.
Because what you mentioned, like the wackiness factor, and that is certainly something that has taken a back seat because people are trying to get through the sand, and the only way to get through that sand is to have a hyper efficient vehicle if you want to ace. And
Right.
you know, so like if there was a different event that was closer to the spirit of the old street race, that might be a way to, like, you could do a summer camp and then have a Labor Day street race kind of event.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be a good potential feeder. I mean, even if it was, if you found a way to encourage people to just build a thing and try it and not worry about acing. Because I mean, when we brought the lobster and towed it out there, we were like, we want to try an ace. We're probably not going to, but we're gonna try.
Yeah.
But you know, we have nothing like the sand dunes to even test on. So that was our huge unknown.
Right.
But it's just like because I'd been out there for the year before, and I rode on Fired Up, the big Hoosier tired trike that weighed a ton.
Yeah.
But
yeah, where's
so
there sand dunes to you? Are there any in Maryland? Or
say again?
Sand dunes, are there any like in Maryland or Delaware? Or
I mean,
there's gotta be a dune field somewhere around
I'm
there.
sure there's dunes somewhere that are closer than California, but I mean, like, you got lots of beaches, but
So because we're doing a virtual event this year and we aren't going to be able to do things like the dunes, we're actively recruiting ideas for what would be fun, and like building a wacky thing and videoing it going to the donut shop would be a totally reasonable challenge, and something that is duplicatable no matter where you live in the country.
Right.
The Freak Bikers right now are doing their February and March build off, and
Right.
they want you to build something silly, and it's like, that's awesome. We should be doing that with them.
Mhm.
Instead of like duplicating things all over the place. If we dovetail and support each other, then we get a bigger community.
Yeah, and I mean, you could build something around that of saying, build something silly, but like, here's something silly you have to do with it. And so, well, go to the donut shop and back is good, but like, you need to be able to have a dog ride your thing with you, or come up with something that it has to do that's an obstacle. That might not be has to drive up a sand dune, but
yeah. What's your obstacle? So the thing I'm thinking of building for that build off is it's like a unicycle, but
okay.
you use it to tow your trailer. So you hook it down behind inside the tongue, between the tongue and the trailer, and then you lever up the whole thing, and then you sit up on top of it, and you can pedal your trailer around with it, because we get places and we drop the trailer and we drive off, and then it's like, oh, we have to move the trailer. And I think it would just be fun to have some dumb,
Oh, you wanted to move like a car trailer?
Yeah.
My mind jumped to the bicycle trailer.
No, I'm talking the car trailer that you've got your rig on.
Yeah, okay. I dig it.
And if I'm clever enough, I could make it so that everybody could share it. So, you bring your giant covered trailer out to California, and we can move it with our giant unicycle.
Yeah. You're gonna need a heck of a strong wheel build.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of extra spokes.
Put a car tire on it.
How hard it is to find 12 gauge spokes. Like everybody's using 14. It's like, I just want some heavy duty spokes, you guys.
Just go all the way up to motorcycle stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's what I should be looking for. I should be looking for one of those little 12-inch motorcycle wheels that the little scooter bikes use.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, though I know there's some folks that I work with here that are working on electric vehicles, and they're doing conversions of like 70s mopeds.
Yeah.
But like nobody's making new moped parts anymore. So they're all converting to downhill mountain biking stuff because that's strong enough for a moped.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Should I pop up this video and we should watch it?
If you want,
Yeah,
sure.
that
Yeah, I mean,
sounds
it's like
great.
half an hour long. It's a big thing. Definitely has some yeah, it might be a bit much to do the whole thing. But let me see.
You're at the very front end of it here.
Yeah, I think so.
Did I get the sound turned on?
I don't hear it. Oh yeah, this was like pre-race. So that was actually one of the cool things that the organizers did in Lowell that might be a little harder to do for the California race because people are more distributed geographically. But especially for the first year, the organizers were hosting like a meet and greet like once a month or every 3 weeks or something all summer before the race, to try and drum up interest and get people to build stuff. And this was just my friend Carl and we build our machines at his shop that was right down the street from where they were doing the meetup. And so we're just like, well, we've already been working on it all day. Let's just throw it in the back of the truck and bring it to the meetup.
Oh, great idea.
But yeah, this is our big, heavy, ridiculous tank.
It's awesome. Don and I fell in love with the two of you as soon as we saw this. We're like, oh, these guys.
There's so many good, bad ideas on that thing. I'm a little bit sad it's disappeared into the ether of the internet, but I'm not that sad about it. Because after we finished that first year, we're like, okay, that was really fun. We need to do this again. This thing isn't going to work. So we need to do something better. But in order to get more people into the race, we're like, well, let's see if we can find someone else who wants to make this work.
It's working right there. Look at it go.
Yeah, it totally works. Just real slow. And you can see just on the inside of the tracks, there's those caster wheels and there's some like big rubber tires on the back.
Yeah.
Those are like cheater wheels. Because the
Oh.
tracks are actually so inefficient that most of the weight is actually carried on those wheels.
Well, that's
Um,
fascinating.
and one of our other tricks is because the drivetrain to the tracks is fixed gear, there's no freewheel in there.
Right.
Each of us have a lever between our legs that if you pull on that lever, one of those fixed wheels gets pushed further down into the ground and the tracks get lifted up off the ground so we can coast.
Oh, wow.
The
That's
trick though is the steering is based on the differential steering of the tracks. So
Yeah.
if you lift the tracks up off the ground, then you have no steering. So going down a hill is a dance between the two pilots. Each have one lever for their side,
Wow.
and so we both have to be very in sync of like, all right, we're drifting that way, you put your track down or I'm going to put my track down. Fortunately, there's only one moderate hill in the Lowell race, and we didn't actually survive long enough to go down it. We only had to go up it.
Wow. The 4-person vehicle that we're currently running, the first set of floats that I made for it were not all the way adequate for the size of pilots that we ended up with.
Was this when it was the Caltrans?
Yes. And yes. And I've replaced the rear float. So I removed about 60 pounds out of it and made it about 800 pounds more buoyant. So the rear float is great now. The front float is still swampy and insufficient.
Yeah.
But when it was, so it's a little easier to control now in the water. But in the water, it was like you say, that dance, because I have 4 pilots, all of them pedaling their own wheel at their own speed.
Yep.
And the steering is accomplished by pointing the front end in a direction, and those 2 pilots pedaling, pulls us in that direction. And the whole time there's waves coming that are twisting the entire thing, and it's trying to flip over and
Yeah.
steering it. And we went to Corvallis and took it down the Willamette, and someone else was steering in the back, and because I'd gotten used to it. It's like it's a boat, right? You're all the time like moving around and getting things, and a boat is a very dynamic situation. And this person who was steering in the back was not prepared for the amount of dynamic control that was required, and did not have a fun time.
Yeah.
Bad for them.
I mean, I feel like all these vehicles have that sort of dynamic, whether on the water or on the land, that like,
yeah,
the steering is always more of an art than a science. We definitely had that with our lobster trike that we brought out there.
Oh wow. Yeah.
That it was always fun because it was a trike, so 2 wheels in the back, 1 in the front, and either of the people in the back could steer. The person who was sitting over the front wheel had no control over where they were going. But it was frequently like it would tend to like go with the crown of the road, and each of the 2 people in the back had a steering control, and it was hard to tell, like, if you were just sort of like semi-passively, like just trying to go in a straight line, whether you were pushing or pulling against the crown of the road or against the other person who was also trying to do the same thing.
Wow.
And so you end up in this like tug of war that you each have one hand on the controls.
Yeah.
Pushing, and are like, are you pushing on this? Am I pushing on this? What's going on?
That's great.
What, we knew coming from our 5-mile race up to the 50-mile race, so like ergonomics are going to be real important. And so like we got really nice seats and pretty good pedaling positions and a lot of adjustability, but at some point the steering was a little bit of an afterthought.
That lobster was great. That was such a great sculpture.
I'm pleased that it's still somehow works.
Yeah.
I've given it a tune-up like once a year before the Lowell race, and we always sucker some group of volunteers into riding it every year.
That's great. I love you guys out there in Lowell. You guys are doing it. You're doing the good work.
We're trying.
I may have found the volume control. Let me see what happens when I do this. Nope.
There's usually a little checkbox when you share your screen with a also share sound.
All right. Well, it looks like I can stop share and then
Yeah, you might have to start it again.
share. Oops. Let's see. Yep, there it is. Share sound. Ugh. It wants me to enter my master password in order to share sound. Why is that? That's ridiculous.
Oh, I wonder if it'll since you're streaming to YouTube.
Oh, we'll
I
get
wonder
some
if it'll-
echo.
Hmm?
I bet we'll get some echo.
Oh, maybe.
Target.
Yeah, you might.
That I've been eyeing for months, thinking that it was going to be a perfect basis for building a machine on.
Oops.
So I've used the front wheels,
Let's
or the
see.
front and back wheel from the bike, as well as the brakes from the bike. I've made some modification for the hubs so that they'll sit on the 5/8" axle.
All right. Well, that was it, I guess. Thanks. Yep, there it is. Share sound.
Well, now we know how it works for the future.
Well, that's partly why I'm doing this, is
Yeah.
to learn all these pieces. Let's close that up.
Yeah, I was gonna see.
So, for example, it took me a little while to notice that you guys were sitting in the waiting room. Did you guys feel like it was a long time before I figured out you were there?
I didn't notice. I just
Yeah, I came in late, so when you saw me, that's when I came in, Bob.
Okay. Good. I had my awareness up, so that's good.
So Nick, what was the woman's name on the lobster in 2018 in California?
that was sitting on the front of it.
Yeah.
That was Pastry Queen. That's my partner.
Okay. Well, I met her in the bathroom at that the Friday night event that we did at the community center.
Oh, at the pre-event
Right.
the pageantry thing.
Yeah, that was really cool to meet her.
Okay.
And for you
She's standing
guys.
in the doorway listening to you.
I heard my name.
Oh, hey, it's Sandy. I met you in the bathroom in 2000.
Yeah, I remember that. Your pictures were fantastic.
Thanks. That's great. So
Yeah.
do you go by PJ or
PQ.
PQ? That I knew it was P something.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a note taker, so I'm going to write that down right now. And so, what's the story on Pastry Queen?
So has this guy told you about what we do back home?
No.
Part of, well, how I got to kinetic sculpture racing, and I assume part of how Nick got to it too, is that we belong to a local bicycle chopper gang. And
Wow.
through the gang, you get to choose your own nickname. So his is Excess, and mine is Pastry Queen, because my background is in baking and pastry arts. And then the other gentleman who we raced with in California and who we raced with in Lowell is also named Jay. And it'd be awfully confusing to have two J's in the race.
Cool.
So we
That's
just use
great.
that.
I was like so amazed that you guys had come all the way from Lowell.
So were
It was-
we.
Yeah. It was quite a to do.
That's great. And I think it might have been your first race. I was at a restaurant. One of our, so our races, we haven't raced in a couple of years, but we've done like a parade on a pond in 2018 and 2019. But that would have been our 40th year.
Oh, wow.
So we're I guess the second biggest race besides California. But one of my
Where are you?
I'm in Boulder, Colorado,
Okay.
and the Boulder race went 28 years at the Boulder Reservoir, till 2007.
Mhm.
And our big sponsor, the radio station, KBCO, was purchased by the Clear Channel.
Mm.
That's iHeart, And I think we, the last year in 2007, we had 40,000 spectators.
Wow.
Holy cow.
The reason being, it was the week before school got out. It's the first Saturday in May. And so it was like party time. And we had all these beer sponsors, like it'd be Miller one year, or Bud, or Coors, or all of this stuff. And I mean, I think it costs like 350,000 for all the porta toilets, the band stage, the bands, all of that stuff. But at that was the height of, we probably, I don't know how many teams we had, maybe 40. But one of the problems was, the students that came out in their thong bikinis, they didn't even know that kinetics was going on. They came for the bands and the beer.
Yep.
And, but it was pretty much, like we were there like early, like 9 o'clock for the crowd to interact for a couple hours. And the race started at 11, and you go across the reservoir, and then the fire department would make mud flats and stuff. And so anyway, and then the next day we'd have an award ceremony somewhere in town, at a pub or something.
Mhm.
So anyway, when that got canceled, Paul Bailey started our website, kineticist.org. And we were totally grassroots at that point. No sponsors, nobody. We had to look all over for another venue because I guess they had a meeting with the city of Boulder. And Paul Bailey, we have bikeways, that go by the creek through the city. And they're like, no. And they're like, you guys should go to Longmont. That's a great little community, like, 15 miles from Boulder. And
Mhm.
that's actually where, we explored Aurora, but that was like 50 miles away. It just didn't seem like home. It's way out in eastern Colorado. So anyway, the city of Longmont embraced us. The aquatics director loved us. We met out there at Union Reservoir, had our meeting. She instantly just loved who we were. And we struggled along, and the city, we were trying to raise some sponsors, and the city would go in the red, and she was really good about hiding the figures.
Wow.
For several years, she hid the figures, and then she's like, oh, we're getting a new city manager. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to do this.
Gotta actually make some money somehow.
Well, we never did make any money because
Yeah.
we only charged $10 per carload. But the thing is, we might have only had like 300 spectators.
Mhm.
So the income was the teams paid $40 plus, I guess, $10 a piece for their t-shirts. And the parking, I think that was our only income. And, well, first of all, we promised Longmont that we would wait 5 years for a beer garden because we're about art and engineering. Did you know that? We're not about beer gardens. Because we had such a nasty reputation, from the Boulder res. Anyway, we did. And after 5 years, we got our beer garden, and there were campgrounds there. So it was a 2-day event for us. The teams would take off of work. We'd set up all the fencing. And the race was Saturday, and big, party night Saturday night. And then we go home Sunday. So yeah, that was really great. But 2017, it was summer solstice weekend. We only had about 75 spectators.
Oof.
Wow.
We worked on the event for a year, you know, and so what we decided to do, 2018 and 19 is just tag on to a big event called Rhythm on the River, where they have 20,000 people and band stages. And there's a little pond there and people walk by it on the way. And we were in the pond, just, spinning around and waving at people. So
That sounds like what we did for my birthday this year.
Anyway, we're trying to keep it alive. And if you go to our Facebook page, it's kineticist, plural. You'll see the parade on the pond. And anyway, that's our story for the moment.
Hey, you're keeping it going.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
Oh, I had lost my thought, but what I wanted to say is I guess we were the only kinetic sculpture thingy in the United States in 220. We got together at a private pond with our mask, and you'll see the cover photo on Kineticist. We had 7 quote teams. Daniel Durrell has been in kinetics all 40 years. And he's got a fiberglass 2-seater boat. And Don Clark was the only one with sculpture costume.
Yep.
His carrots, he has carrot sculpture and a bunny suit. So it was like 95 degrees and he had the bunny suit on. And I'm like, oh, Don, you're too much. It's hot
Don's
out
amazing.
here.
He's my hero.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, I've come to California 6 times. 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 19. And, been a peon for Don and a timer for Jeno. Pretty
So
cool.
the race here is usually my birthday weekend. And because we couldn't do anything, we got together the other guys that had taken the lobster out to California with us. And I built a tiny 1-person machine that raced Lowell in 19. And so we brought both of those onto the Charles River. And for whatever reason, we couldn't seem to get my machine super stable in the water. But we had a couple of friends with kayaks and canoes. And we just floated down the river for a couple of hours. And people are stopping all up and down. Most people don't know about our chopper gang. And in Boston, we're just far enough away from Lowell that nobody knows about that either. People were just like, there's a big, dumb lobster in the middle of our river. What's going on?
That's great. That was this year. I mean, that was
Yeah.
20.
Yep.
Cool. Well, see, you guys did something too. We weren't the only ones. Darren was like so boastful, like we're the only kinetics in 2020 live.
That was a good impersonation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we weren't the only ones. They're like, well, I have this big dumb thing. I'm not just going to leave it in the backyard all year. It was a bit of a to-do for us to get the lobster out of storage. And like I was saying earlier, we took it to the donut shop as a test drive, and it didn't make it back from the donut shop intact. So
It was so bad.
we got a little too ambitious. We had forgotten how poor the lobster's off-road capabilities are.
No, you tried to do an off-camber uphill turn.
Yeah.
And we tacoed the crap out of both front wheels.
Uh-oh.
We know the lobster has one weakness, and it's off-camber uphill turns, and we'd apparently forgotten.
Aw.
So the day before we were supposed to take it in the river, we tacoed the front wheel. So I had to rebuild it.
Wow.
Now the lobster doesn't have front brakes, but that's okay. One of the rules was don't hit the front brakes anyway.
So yeah, the hill was to our left and we were trying to turn up it because the road coming back from the donut shop is a little bit sketchy and doesn't have enough shoulders for a lobster with vehicle.
Yeah, so we're just like trying to go up over the grass off the road into a parking lot, and it didn't end well.
Aw.
And we'd know something was already broken. Like the drivetrain was already broken on the way there. Remember, I couldn't pedal.
Oh yeah, there was something else wrong with the drivetrain.
It was
right, because we torched the freewheel.
Yeah,
Right, because you.
I torched the freewheel. There's no we in this.
Right, but you weren't the one that torched the freewheel in the sand in California.
That's true.
Cool.
We have a lot of jokes about my legs and breaking things. Too much power.
Yeah.
All right.
When we came out there with our plan to ace, like we had our 3 pilots, and they were like, okay, when inevitably something breaks or something goes wrong and we don't ace anymore, then we can trade out and have everybody have a chance riding. But PQ was the only one who did the whole 50 miles
Wow.
on the front seat of the Lobster, where she had no control over where she was going.
Okay. Well, PQ, I saw you guys. I was at the finish line at Ferndale. That was one of my duties, is to help Jenna with the timing. So I saw you. You made it. Yay.
We
Yes.
sure did.
Yes.
And we had a real eventful road trip home.
Yeah, we did.
Both ways. Both of your road trips were.
Well,
eventful.
we flew out, and 2 of the other team members drove it out, and then we tagged out, and one of them flew home, and then we jumped in the caravan to drive home.
I don't
Yeah.
remember what Chris's last name is. That was the year he rode the Fiesta.
Yeah, Chris Gardner.
Yeah, Chris Gardner. We ended up the axle on our trailer had broken just as they were coming over the mountains into California, and they got it speed welded together, but we picked up a new axle and spent our buffer day installing it.
Wow.
So that we could safely get home.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
fun and exciting. And then didn't the air
Safe
conditioning
towing
work?
is critical.
Yes, the
AC went.
The AC belt fell off on the truck
So
on the first of the 5-day road trip.
we spent the whole ride with earplugs in.
Wow.
And the windows down on the highway.
Okay.
It was
Yikes.
hot.
Yikes.
And then in St. Louis, the truck got broken into and all our stuff got stolen.
And so we had like 24 hours of get new cell phone chargers, buy new underwear, find new backpacks before we got on a plane to go to Europe to go teach bicycle fun time camp.
Wow.
Which is the only way I can explain that.
That is the best way that has been described.
I had to describe it for my resume today, so I've been thinking a lot about it.
Bicycle fun time camp.
Yep.
That is basically
exactly
what
what
that
that
was.
Wow.
Wow.
2 summers, we ended up teaching a program in Lithuania called Art Bike Invasion, where Lithuanian burners brought abandoned bicycles from Black Rock City back to Lithuania, and they distributed them to kids from local schools. One year they were at an abandoned school in Drevna, which is a tiny little town on the Curonian Lagoon on the Baltic Sea. And then the second year we were at a small art university in a town called Telshai. And they had art and engineering students come in, and the folks that were running Art Bike Invasion run a maker lab in Vilnius, which is the capital of Lithuania. And so they had all these, and they teach all digital fabrication, both directly to students and also to teachers to teach to students. So they had the capabilities of 3D printing and vinyl cutting and lights and paint. And then somehow through the magic of the internet, they got connected to us, and we said, yeah, we'll come. And they had 2 angle grinders and a welder, and we showed up and totally changed their fabrication capacity, because now all of a sudden they had people that could teach kids that the sky was the limit. And really the highlight of the first year was the kids showed up and we immediately each built something really silly. There were 3 of us from our gang that came initially, and then 3 more folks joined us. So we built some stuff real quick so kids could see that we could make swing bikes, or we could make tall bikes, or we could make tricycles if you're really stupid and want to have 1.5 time drive. That would be me. I had a bicycle as a basketball hoop as a steering wheel. It was great. But so we showed the kids what we had and showed them what our capabilities were and said, okay, here's a piece of paper and pen, draw us a picture of what you want. And the kids were going around the circle, and one kid was like, I want to build a tank. And another kid says, I want to build a boat. And Nick just stops and says, let me tell you about my tank boat. And why you don't want to do that.
I managed to talk the kid that wanted a tank out of building a tank, but the kid that wanted to build a boat still did eventually build a boat several months after we
I'm
left.
never welding washing machine panels ever again. That was awful.
So yeah, just look at the pictures in the link that I sent. That's
Well,
from one of them. That was quite an experience.
You
look
can
at that
Robert's on
crazy.
Facebook.
That is a crazy cargo bike right there.
Oh no, is that the
Oh,
trailer?
no, that was
yeah.
before we got there. We never saw that bike, sadly.
Oh, the trailer is just packed.
That was
Wow.
the year before we went.
Yeah,
Is that you, Steve, in the front?
yeah, I think so.
So the guy that's in the front of that picture helps to run the, I don't know if it's Vilnius or all of Lithuania is on their bike committee. Because they have some really great bike paths, actually, and they've got a really nice bike share system. And so the first year we ended up, because of where we were on the Baltic Sea, there's a little part of Lithuania that you can only get to by ferry, or you need a visa to travel through the disconnected part of Russia to get into it. And so we ended up taking a ferry with all of our newly constructed choppers with a bunch of other adult burners and choppers that kids decided that they didn't want to take. Well, the kids that come to the program can build a chopper and take it home, or they can build it and leave it. So grown-ups showed up and either brought their own bikes or took bikes that we had, and we went bike camping along this really beautiful bike path in a place where there's basically no cars because it's tough to get to from the rest of Lithuania. And we ended up bike camping in what was supposed to be a hammock park, but turned out to have one hammock and one pizza oven. And we squatted in this former resort building that had been defaulted on, and so was owned by the bank and was totally abandoned. Yeah, that was a thing.
It was an epic tale.
How marvelous. It's important to have epic tales.
Yes.
Yes.
And that year was full of them.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you guys, this was lovely. I enjoyed visiting with the 3 of you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing this every week and, get better at promoting it. And hopefully at some point, someone's going to say something inflammatory and we'll get to work through some issues. Oh, nice.
Next week, silly hats mandatory.
Okay. We'll add that. Here, let me
Former Ace costumes, in fact.
Well, thanks for hosting us, Bob. This was
Yeah.
fun.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Happy to always talk about building funny stuff.
Have a great
Right.
night.
And Lowell's on my bucket list.
Well.
Because I was like cat herder since September of 2009 for art events.
Yeah.
So I had time to go to California, but Baltimore was before California, so that seemed like too much to go to Baltimore.
I mean, we still haven't made it to Baltimore, and that's a lot
That's true.
closer to California.
But if you do anything
Right.
in Colorado, you're more likely to convince us to come to you than to get us to Baltimore, I think.
Right. The thing is, it's hot here in the summertime. I mean, California is perfect. It's like, 60 degrees, and we're like 95 degrees. So,
Yeah, that sounds like Boston. It's fine. We'll make it.
okay. Well, anyway, sounds great.
Have a good night, y'all.
Cool. Thanks, Robert.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.